Okay, call to order. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Councillor Rivard.
Yes, I do, under planning 6.1, number 4. And
what's the reason for the conflict?
entered into a business relationship with the developer.
Okay, and the other?
Number strategic priorities, intergovernmental affairs, 6.7.
Okay, and the reason?
In conflict because same reason.
Okay.
For one of the 7 landowners out there. So I did an enter into a relationship with him as well.
Did you get that, Mr. Kelly? Get that down, Tracy? Okay. Okay, approval of agenda. Do you have an amendment there, Councillor Rivard?
So the deputy chief just needs to leave a little bit earlier, so if we can bump things up, technical services somewhere.
Right after planning?
Well, just somewhere in the top 5.
Is that all right?
Would be,
Sure.
He has to get going. Is that all right?
yeah.
Good. So where do you want to bump it up to?
It should be pretty quick. We can go number 2, just make it easy.
So is it before planning or after planning?
6.2.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Rivard to approve the agenda with the amendments. All in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Planning and Heritage, and the acting chair is Councillor Yankov. Oh, sorry about that, sorry. I'm just trying to move quickly here. You have the previous minutes, regular meeting June 14th, special meetings open June 21st, 28th, and public meeting of planning June 22nd. So, we need someone to move. Moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Ramsey. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Business arising. Out of minutes. No business? Okay, so we can move on to Planning and Heritage. Councillor Alana Yankov, acting chair.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you.
Just acting presenter for this evening.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. The Planning and Heritage Committee met on Tuesday, June 15th. As well, the Planning Board met on July 5th. And the Heritage Board did not meet in June. And the Design Board met on Tuesday, June 15th. All of the minutes and reports are in your packages. And we have 7 resolutions to be put forward tonight for your consideration. And I might point out that number 3, which is 88 Brackley Point Road, if council decides to proceed with public consultation, the public consultation process will not take place in July. It will take place in August if council decides to proceed. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer. And hopefully our manager is
And we
here.
have the manager of planning here, Mr. Alex Forbes. Okay, do you want to go with the first resolution?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Yankov, second by Councillor McCabe, at the request for 1 major variance to permit an addition to a non-conforming single-detached dwelling located at 20 Bishop Street, PID 359331, be approved, subject to the attached conditions.
Okay.
1, the proposed addition to the existing single-detached dwelling shall meet applicable building code requirements identified through the building and development permit review process. 2, the proposed addition to the existing single-detached dwelling and introduction of a secondary suite shall be permitted, provided that the regulation requirements contained in section 5.6, secondary suite and on-site parking requirements contained in section 44, general provisions for parking of the zoning and development bylaw are met. And 3, any additional proposed work, example, a new second floor balcony, main floor deck, and shed beyond the single detached dwelling, addition shall meet applicable building code and zoning and development bylaw requirements identified through the building and development permit review process, Your Worship.
Okay. Resolution has been read. Councillor Twill, question?
I'd like to move a deferral on this particular resolution. I had an opportunity to speak
Okay, just 1 second. Do you have a second for the deferral? Who's going to second the deferral?
Before we
Okay,
get to deferral, I'd like the reason for the deferral, I guess.
yeah, that's what he's going to give to us
Yeah,
now.
just before.
So the deferral's on the floor, moved by Councillor Twill, second by Councillor Durant. So reason for deferral?
Well, this particular request
Yeah.
for this property owner, it's a non-conforming use. It's not even arm's length to the adjacent property owner who's lived on Bishop Street for well over 70 years. He's got some major questions. I attempted to have an appointment with Henry to work with the adjacent property owner to address all the concerns. I don't know if all the concerns had been addressed. So with that in mind, we'll deferral to make sure that the adjacent property owner's questions and concerns have been addressed and addressed adequately and effectively.
Okay.
Again, it's a non-conforming use. I'm sure there's good intentions by the new property owner, but nonetheless, I want to defer to the adjacent property owner, literally arm's length from this particular property. He's got major concerns, and I haven't yet received the assurance that all of those concerns and all those questions have been addressed and answered.
Okay, that's the reason for the deferral. Okay, you want to vote on the deferral right away, or do you want to discuss the deferral? Question? You calling the question?
No, it's just a quick question.
Could you stand up, please, and just give us your...
I guess, we have the manager plan here before I defer or vote to defer.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Councilor Twill, I certainly appreciate what you're asking, but be nice to know what the concerns are. You said there's major concerns. I mean, we do have a manager here to answer any questions if there are major concerns, and I'd like to hear what the concerns are before deferring it.
Yeah.
Instead of
And these, Councillor Yankoff, these were all expressed and dealt with at the planning board meeting, right?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
actually looking through your worship. I don't see a letter from the
No.
adjacent, correct me if I'm wrong.
There isn't.
Councillor Twill, I don't see a letter, but perhaps there is one there.
Okay.
Maybe the manager could.
Okay, Councillor Twill, if you speak the second time, that's your second time. Alex, you want to give us some background?
I was at the meeting, Your Worship, but
No.
there is, in the package, there is 2 letters of support for this application, and to my knowledge, just reading the minutes, at the meeting I didn't attend, it looked like it was relatively straightforward.
Any letters against?
There wasn't in the
No.
package that I saw.
No,
so.
that's right.
Councillor McCabe, no letters against? Not that
Not to
we-
my awareness,
No.
no.
Okay, Councillor Twill, your second time?
One resident phoned me, this is elected representative.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether there's a letter in the package or not, to my mind, is a good point. He took the time to phone me.
Yeah.
And I made sure that he had an opportunity to get down and speak to the planning officer that worked on this particular file.
Yeah.
So let's be clear, there are major concerns from the adjacent property owner, which is literally arm's length. And you have to put your arm across the other house. Having said that, when I did talk to the planning officer, a meeting had taken place, and all of the questions and concerns were not answered. She's still going to explore those concerns and those questions. I've yet to hear back. I said I'm going to wait, call to hear back. So with that in mind, that is a rationale and that's a motivation for the deferral. To make sure, before I vote on something, I want to make sure that I have all the information. And the mere fact that that meeting did take place, the mere fact that all the information was not forthcoming, I can't do a conscious support. That's why I moved the deferral. If adjacent property owner is satisfied, and there was a follow-up conversation with the planning officer to the adjacent property owner, then by all means, I'll be glad to support it, but I can't do that.
Okay.
So that's why I moved the deferral.
Okay. Councillor Duffy, you want to...
I would just briefly say, Your Worship, if there was problems with it and the resident was dealing with the planning officer, if she had any doubts about it being satisfied, the application, she would have moved to pull it.
Right.
So she's happy that it's here. She's our planning officer. She knows the books.
Yeah, no,
You're supposed to do your homework before you come to this room.
no, just once, no, whoa. Councillor Yankoff, did you want to follow up?
Well, I mean, although I can certainly empathize with Councillor Twill's concerns, were these prior to the meeting? Because it would have been great if you had come to the meeting and you
Yeah.
could have maybe had an opportunity then
Yeah.
to address those direct questions with Emily.
Councillor Rivard.
Yeah, just quickly, again, again, no disrespect to Councillor Twill and bringing up the topic, the concerns, but again, I haven't heard what the concerns are. And I guess, again, before I vote on deferring something, I need to know why I'm deferring it as
Yeah.
opposed to a conversation that I wasn't privy to, but there's no reasoning as to why we should be deferring it. So again, I'd ask the question, what are the reasons? And then we got the manager of planning here to address some if there is.
Yeah.
And if there is, great, then I certainly will support deferral, but if not,
Questions called?
Questions called?
On deferral? Okay. All those in favor of the deferral, please raise your hand. Okay. 2. Those against, or 3. Those against. 7-3. Okay, now we're back under the main motion. Question called on the motion? Question called on the motion. Okay, all those in favor of the first planning resolution? No, the question's been called. All those in favor, please put your hands up. Okay, those against? 8-2. Okay, next one, sir.
Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor Cave, that the request to reduce the required lot frontage from 25 meters to approximately 22.1 meters, and reduce required lot area from 575 square meters to approximately 517.9 square meters, in order to allow for an additional 5th residential dwelling unit located in the basement of the building of the property at 231 Cumberland Street, PID 363994, be approved.
Okay. Questions called? Great. All those in favor, please put your hand up. Okay. All those against? So 4 against, is that what I have? Okay. Just 1 second, Mr. Kelly. So Councilors Twill,
Rivard,
Bernard,
Duffy, and I didn't see the fourth hand, Richard. Oh, Councillor Drawn, Richard. Councillor Drawn.
Okay. And Duffy opposed. Okay, next one, sir.
Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request to amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning development bylaw for a portion of the property at 88 Bradley Point Road, PID 396770, from single detached residential large R1L zone to medium density residential townhouse R3T zone and single detached narrow R1N zone, and amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan for a portion of the property at 88 Bradley Point Road, PID 396770, from low density residential to medium density residential, in order to create 3 townhouse dwellings and 2 single family dwellings R1N, to be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Questions called?
Just a public consultation.
And just a reminder, your worship, this will not be, if it's approved by council.
It's in August because of timelines. Yeah. Councilor Duffy.
Your worship, is this the application we had maybe a year ago in January where the sight lines were an issue?
What's that?
No, this wasn't.
No, this is Mr. Wood. Alex, can you give some background?
I think it's in the report as to.
Yes, it is.
It had been recently.
It's the 14-unit townhouses.
Right, and there was to be
No,
apartment building.
It was a fairly substantive apartment building and a number of townhouses. and,
You're thinking the one
Oh,
that's
yeah,
out
right.
yeah,
Yes, I
yeah,
know.
that's
I know.
that.
It's
Mr. Wood.
Right, yeah. The density has been significantly dropped.
Yes.
It's up around Stone Park School.
Yeah.
Going into Poe and so forth. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that all right?
Thank you.
Okay, questions called. All those in favor? And just public consultation. Okay, those against? 1. Okay, go ahead, sir.
Your worship, moved by Councilman Yankoff, second by Councilman McCabe,
You should wait.
moved by Councilor Yankoff, second by Councilor McCabe, that the request to amend Appendix A, future land use map of the official plan from medium density residential to low-density residential for a portion of the subject property with access onto McWilliams Road, PID 684514. Recreational to low-density residential, and to amend Appendix G, zoning map of the zoning and development bylaw from low-density residential single R2S to narrow single-detached residential R1N for a portion of the subject property with access onto McWilliams Road, PID 684514, and medium density mixed-use residential, MUR, to narrow single-detached residential, R1N, for a portion of the subject property with access on McMillan Road, PID 684514. Medium density mixed-use residential, MUR, to low-density residential, single R2S, for a portion of the subject property with access on McWilliams Road, PID 684514. Medium density mixed-use residential, MUR, to medium density residential townhouse R3T for a portion of the subject property with access on McWilliams Road, PID 684514. And medium density residential townhouse R3T to narrow single detached residential R1N for a portion of the subject property with access onto McWilliams Road, PID 684514. In order to allow for subdivision of 91 residential lots, be approved to proceed to public consultation.
Acting Chair Yankoff.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to point out with this item, there have been a few questions and concerns, both in support and not in support of. But I would encourage us all to proceed to public consultation where we'll be able to flush this out and get the additional information that we need. So I just wanted to identify that.
Thank you very much. And Councillor McCain from Ward 8.
Ward 9,
Ward 9.
this area.
I'll put you in Ward 8.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think while it is important that we do go to public consultation to get information and feedback from the residents on all sides, one concern, because I'm looking at the plan again, and we did have discussion at our planning board meeting, is the access road onto McWilliams Road. They keep saying there's access to McWilliams, but the way this is right now, there's been issue because the roads don't meet up, so there is no access the way it is, according to what I understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Yankoff, from our planning board meeting. The roads have to meet, that they are not able to not meet. Police had a concern, someone else had a concern. I would certainly think that we should have the information and accurate information before we proceed to public consultation on that, because we'll just get into another 3 and 4 times.
So you're making that request of planning?
Absolutely, if we have to, when they're saying that there's no access the way it is right now, according to what I understood from planning, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Yankoff, that they can't have the roads if they're not connected, and because Montgomery Heights already had their road put in, there's no way that this other road's going to connect, so I'm wondering where the access to McWilliams Road is before we go.
Do you wish to defer to the manager?
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Manager? Mr. Forbes?
Mr. Adams may be able to provide some insight.
Chief Engineer?
Yeah, there was some discussion in regard to that it was
Is
a
he here?
collector street, but that collector was downgraded, and from a collector just to a local street. And again, my reading of this was that the primary access of were to McKay, so
To McCrae.
from McRae, sorry.
So it's a little confusing for me though when we're reading access on the McWilliams through the whole thing.
So the manager of Public Works.
No, he's in the
on
next room.
phone.
Yeah.
He come in.
Yeah.
He was on the, he said he was going to call in your show.
Is he in the next room? Yeah, just call him in there. Please. Thank you kindly. Yeah, no, he come in. Didn't want to miss the show.
Your Worship,
Yes, sir?
so if this is approved to go to public meeting, would this be going in August also, Councillor Yankoff? Since timelines, or
Probably.
Or we're just worried about the first one that you brought up?
What do you think,
Because this is what, the
That's a great
13th?
question for
Alex?
the manager, whether or not we're still do we normally have a public meeting in July? I just don't want any residents to be on vacation and miss out
I know,
Correct.
that's a
on the
good point.
opportunity. So
That's the
that's
reason
I'd
what
leave it
I'm
alone.
concerned about.
Yeah. No,
Not
I,
having the chance.
Is that all right?
It's
I mean, it's the will of council.
I should check with the manager.
We'll check with the manager.
There's nothing to change.
So, Chief Engineer Scott Adams, the counselor from Ward 9 has a question about the streets lining up off McWilliams with the what is it called? Montgomery Heights? That's the
With
street.
thunder there for sure. I just said if we're going to public consultation, because our resolution is talking about a connection to Williams Road, the way this sits right now, it hasn't been recommended that those two roads would connect that with the access, from what I understood. So before we go to a public meeting, that needs to be cleared up if we're gonna talk about access on Williams Road.
And what do you think?
So, Your Worship, so I was asked to review this again in June. Looking at the information that was presented at the time, and knowing how some neighborhoods around the city, you know, we're trying to reduce traffic cutting through neighborhoods. So with the misalignment of road, and, you know, the number of developments happening in Montgomery Heights and this area as well, we are satisfied that there does not have to be an access to Maple Island Road. That with two accesses on McRae, through Parent Street and as well as Horseshoe, the main road through there, it meets all the criteria for handling all the traffic in the subdivision. And then that will eliminate any concern for cutting through, traffic cutting through the neighborhood.
So then we probably need to change what the resolution means, right? If it's talking about access on the mountain.
That can be clarified, I believe, I'll ask manager, can that be clarified
Thank you, Mr.
at the
Adams.
public meeting or in the advertising?
Yeah, I think we certainly, it's, as long as the map is correct and when we send out the advertisements, we can tidy any of that up. Things are flushed out as a part of the public hearing, but it just needs to be projected very clearly at the public hearing that there is no access to McWilliams.
And could you clarify when that will be? The chair had
The
asked.
chair,
us
the
to
acting
meet
chair
in
wants to know when do you
July
think
or
we'll have the
August?
meeting? August or July?
Well, that's up to council.
Okay, good.
But the only thing, and this is these things that you have to kind of crystal ball, is that how much demand do you think you're going to get in both of these applications? The one you deferred, which is, that will go on to August, and this one here as well. I mean, those two applications on the same night may present a long night, but that's not an issue for me. So these are big applications. You'll like to get the public out. So if they're separated, that may be easier to deal with, but I will do whatever you would like me to.
What do you wish, acting chair? Do it in July or wait till August?
Well, I think I'd like to ask council, in the past, we've had some concerns with residents that, you know, with July, it was almost
Yeah.
difficult for them to get out. So I don't have the history of council like some of you veterans do, so I would kind of look for some
Guidance.
guidance on what you think would be the right thing to do for the citizens of
In the
Charlotte.
past, like,
Councillor Duffy?
July was no more strategic than June or August.
Okay,
Like, you know, it's, if you're really interested in the
You'll
issue
show
at
it.
hand,
sure.
you will make arrangements.
Or you could call in.
You could call in,
Yeah,
or
or
send
WebEx.
someone, or, you know, and that, Councillor Tweel would know too, and Councillor,
Bernard.
Councillors here and
Duffy and McLeod.
would know, I think, would
Yeah.
agree, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
before this goes out into, all this stuff will be cleaned up on this confusion that Councilman.
Yes,
McCain
nope,
pointed out.
Manager plan is right there, Mr. Alex Forbes.
Well, and my other comment is that we don't know what's flowing through on August to the regular August meeting as well, so that it may be nice to break them up, but I just throw that out.
I'm good with it.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Is that all right, Councilor McKay? Question was called?
Yeah.
We go to public consultation. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 8, okay. Those against? 8-1. And so I have Councilor Rivard at 1. Okay. Next one, sir.
Your worship, moved by Councilor Yankoff, second by Councilor McCabe, that the proposed amendments to the zoning and development bylaw PH-ZD.2 pertaining to the sections as attached be approved. 1. Section 1.4.2 include MHR zone into zoning table. Section 3.1.1 amend fee schedule reference from Appendix E to Appendix F. Section 3.3 development and building permits, expiry of incomplete building and development permit applications after 6 months of inactivity. Section 3.9 major variance, clarify regulations subject to the variance process and update section to permit limited signage with approved murals. Section 4.1.2 accessory buildings, replace gross floor area with building footprint in the accessory buildings table and include a subsection to prohibit basement and accessory structures. Section 4.2.2, decks and other projections into yards, amend the height above grade for a deck to 0.3 meters or 1 foot. Section 6.2, undersized lots, repeal and replace section to clarify minimum development rights by allowing for a single detached dwelling. Section 6.7, garbage area requirements, insert new subsection 6.7 to standardize site requirements for garbage storage areas on multi-residential developments and renumber subsequent subsections. Section 8.1.1, zones include MHR into zoning table. Section 44.5.1.b, parking lots, remove gravel as permitted material for stable surface. Section 45, general provisions for signage, insert additional fascia signing to requirements for buildings over 4 stories in height in the 500 lot area. And Appendix A, definitions, insert definition for footprint and amend definition for multi-unit dwelling, Your Worship.
Okay. Covers a lot. Councilor Ramsey?
Thank you. As Mr. Forbes is probably familiar to, I got a phone call from one resident outside of my area, I guess. He's looking to build a stand-free garage. And he had his application in over a month ago. And I'm just wondering, he's not getting the answers yet. And if this passes, does this mean he cannot do it? He's looking for, I talked to Mr. Kelly about this, and I think I talked to somebody else last week about it. And he's just trying to get answers since his application was already in a month ago. And if we pass this, does this mean that he is not allowed to build this, I guess, Mr. Forbes? is
Mr.
what
Forbes.
I'm asking.
Madam Chair, is that all right?
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
Madam
Is
Chair.
that all right? He can speak to it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. I spoke to this gentleman today, and I just indicated when you're coming through with amendments, and it's this close to being happening, if you give first reading tonight, what will occur here this evening is in effect what the bylaw is going to be. But he can apply for variances, which I outlined to him. I think he just wants to, he wanted to clarify that he can apply for the variances. Previously, you weren't allowed to apply for variances for accessory buildings. We had the particular interesting problem or issue with an accessory building that somebody had built and it's too high, too large. We did get an opinion from Mr. Hooley, and so you can apply for the variance, and I think he's happy that he can apply for the variance. But the regulations, if approved tonight, that's what he's going to be. That's what the variance will be based upon, this new standard.
I'll just follow up, Your Worship.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing, the only confusion part about it is that he had his application over a month ago, and we had this at our last public meeting 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, or something like that.
June 22nd.
Yeah, and he had his application in there, and he's just wondering if he can go from 750 to 1.2, I don't know what size it was anyway, but he was talking to Mr. Forbes and all reference. But at the same time, is he being penalized? It shouldn't be, because he had his application already in. I guess is my question on the floor.
Madam Chair?
Madam
you
Chair?
want to yield to the
Yes,
manager?
please.
Is that all right?
Manager.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when council starts to deliberate on these applications in the public hearing. He had, I don't know the exact dates. I mean, I was on vacation when this happened, but he only applied like 2.5 weeks ago or something. These things have been moving through the system. So, we were dealing with him. I told him that if council turned it down tonight, then he's back to what he was going to apply for previously.
Okay.
So, but I think his primary concern, he just wants the ability that he can apply for the variances, and the answer to that is yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Drawn.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, Councilor Yankoff. The question I have is about the parking lot for, I think it's 4 units or more, gravel to pavement. What's the idea of something like that? Like, there's lots of nice, manicured gravel driveways and parking lots. Why would we now request a pavement only?
Councilor Yankoff, do you want to refer again?
I will refer, but
Go ahead.
Councilor Drawn's, there were others that had that same question, so I think it's a great question, and could, the manager done.
At the risk of getting my counterpart in the other room, it's, Mr. Adams is the one who's requesting it.
Oh.
Gravel moves. It moves into the driveways, it gets into the roadway,
Yeah.
it ends up in the storm system, and then he ends up digging it out. There's some safety issues too with gravel on the, on the roadway. Bicycles, motorcycles don't like it, and primarily, there was a bit of a review, and most of the municipalities require pavement or some kind of crush, so this stays on the property. But the request is coming through my colleague, and I'm trying to put it on to my colleague, so that you didn't.
We'll get him in here. Do you want him in here, Councillor Durant?
Sure.
Sure.
Boy,
Go do it again.
Maybe
You
you
should-
should Wisconsin.
He should work for planning. Councillor Yankoff, where's the issue of the common rooms and apartments?
Well, remember it was removed.
Okay, it's-
Because we were concerned with.
Affordable and accessible housing?
Robert Zilke was going to fine tune that.
Okay.
And bring it up another time.
Okay, correct. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure it wasn't misprint. And it's just to deal with Councillor Duran's, the parking lots, section 44.5.1.b, correct?
I think Mr. Adams is on to me, he's not in the next room.
Oh,
So,
he left.
I'm not sure where he is.
Okay. So what do you,
Yeah.
Councillor, can I just ask Councillor Yankoff, what do you want to do, Councillor Yankoff?
And, I mean, if there's general concerns from council, we can always put a friendly amendment to just leave that one out for further discussion if there's others that are concerned. Because others did have questions about that
Yeah.
before I decided.
You want to move deferral, Councillor Durant?
Sure, I'd like to.
Okay, so deferral of section 44.5.1.b, correct? Is that all right? Seconded by Councillor Twill. Okay, can we vote on the deferral first? All those in favor of the deferral, please raise your hand.
There's Mr. Adams.
Oh, Mr. Adams.
Oh, well,
Well,
Scott?
Mr. Adams, can you just give us Councillor Durant wants to know about the parking lots, remove gravel as a permitted material for stable surface. Section 44.5.1.b.
So, I guess what,
They're asking for why the change from gravel to preferred paving, from what I understand, and why you're asking for the change.
yes, so your worship, so we're asking for either asphalt, concrete, or paver stones for a number of reasons. One, typically what happens when it backs up against the sidewalk, water pools, ponds, the residents sometimes don't like to maintain it, so we get puddles and depression. And then that can start to erode our subsurface or our subgrades underneath the sidewalk and cause us issues at the end of the day. Where if these driveways are well maintained and a non-porous material, then it helps drain the water to a green space where we want it to go and dissipate naturally. So by having gravel, there's a lot more maintenance for it, and it causes more damage to our neighboring infrastructure.
Councillor
Thank you.
Durant.
That's a great explanation. It's just like I'm thinking of summer business or, someone just starting out and they have a parking lot where they put crushed asphalt or gravel or something in it. And now that's a substantial amount of money to go and pave a parking lot or something like that. So I have a concern about that. I kind of like to leave it as it is. I can see your reasoning why. But I just know of people starting out that it's very expensive to get asphalt into a parking lot. So I'll not support that, but I understand your.
But you'll support the deferral.
Yes.
Yeah. But under gravel as a permitted material, what about millings? Can you use millings?
Again, millings can
That's
eventually
used-
over time they erode after traffic goes over it, unlike asphalt or an actually paved surface or concrete. So it does end up in the same condition.
Councillor Bernard, on the deferral.
I think we already talked about all these
Yeah.
at the ROD after the public
Come on.
meeting that we had. But I do agree, I think that there's a product out there that you can get, Class A gravel zone that packs right down, packs very much like cement. I don't think would be near the issue that the manager's talking about in the long run. There's probably some kinds of gravels that does stray out of the road, but I don't see it as a big problem. I do agree with Councilor Duran. I think there's people that are getting into the business, trying to get into the business. It's a big expense to pay the parking lot when you can use that crushed gravel and it does pack down nicely. And it will make for a nice base when they do come down the pavement. So,
You want to vote on the deferral? Want to comment?
Make a comment, but
Right ahead. Stand right up there, sir.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Your Worship. So Scott, I had someone in my neighborhood just had this particular thing done, and it's some type of gravel aggregate that packs. It's as hard as cement, and he had it done last year, and it works so well that he made his driveway a bit bigger. So, is there some way we could reword it so that it's loose gravel, or some way that I understand what you're saying, that loose stuff is definitely an issue, but some of this other stuff that's out there now that it's got a little bit of combination of asphalt gravel and they just roll, dump it in just like wood with gravel, but it packs and stays. It stays well. So I'm just wondering, could we, maybe a deferral, and we could look at just looking at loose gravel. I know, like some of these other, and talk more to the landscapers and see just exactly what they're recommending before we go ahead.
Is that all right there, Scott? We'll do some more study on it.
yep. Why don't we just take that section out for now?
We'll just defer it.
Just to take that section
So
out.
that's why the deferral's voted on. We'll take it in. All those in favor of the deferral? 10-0. Okay, so now we vote on the original motion. Okay? Right? Question call?
Amend the motion, Your Worship.
Question called.
Question call. All those in favor of number 5, is it? Yeah. Please put up your hand. Okay. Okay, 10-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Yankoff, seconded by Councilor Cave, that proposed amendments to the zoning and development bylaw, PH-ZD.2, pertaining to sections as attached be approved. 1, Section 17, medium density residential townhouse R3T zone, remove and repeal apartment dwellings as a permitted use in the zone. And Section 21.1.1, medium density mixed use residential MUR zone, to clarify the permitted uses within the zone as townhouse dwellings, semi-detached or duplex dwellings, single detached dwellings, nursing homes, and community care facilities, Your Worship.
Okay. Sounds good there, sir. Question call?
Yes.
Questions call? All those in favor, please put up your hand. 10-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Yankoff, seconded by Councilor Cave, that the request to amend Schedule A, future land use map of the official plan, to remove the designation concept planning area and replace all properties designated as such within the comprehensive planning area be approved.
Okay. Question call? Questions called by Councilor Yankoff. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, against? 10-0. Okay. Is that it, sir?
No, Your Worship?
That's it?
No,
There's a reading, right?
there's one, just a resolution first, Your Worship.
Yeah.
The official plan, PHOPA.1, to adopt the official plan amendment, PHOPA 1023, the land use designation of concept planning area, is shown on Appendix A, future land use map of the City of Charlottetown official plan, removed, and that the property is designated as concept planning area, is shown on Appendix A, future land use map of the City of Charlottetown official plan, be replaced with the comprehensive planning area, hereby excluding its former designation of concept planning area. Moved by Councilor Yankoff, seconded by Councilor McCabe. Be resolved that the said bylaw be now adopted.
Shall I carry?
Yes.
10-0. That's it?
More, Your Worship. Official plan, PHOPA.1, zoning and development bylaw, PH-ZD.2, to adopt bylaw PHZD.2047, a bylaw to amend the zoning and development bylaw to amend sections of the zoning and development bylaw, PHZD.2, pertaining to sections 1.4.2, section 3.1.1, Section 3.3, Section 3.9.1, Section 4.1.2, Section 4.2.2, Section 6.2, Section 6.7, Section 8.1.1, Section 17, Section 21, Section 44.5.1, point B, Section 45, and Appendix A. Moved by Councilor Yankoff, second by Councilor McCabe, be it resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw, PH-ZD.2-047, as pertains to the zoning and development bylaw amendments as attached, be read a first time and approved, and that it be read a second time at the next public meeting of council, Your Worship.
Yes, sir.
Should the 44...
Just 1 second, no, Councilor Bernard, then Councilor...
Oh, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Councilor Mayor.
In that section area, we still have 44.5.
Yeah, that's deferred.
So
Yeah, that has to be deferred there, sir. Can you just note there? It has to be...
Yeah, that was my question too, Your Worship, sorry.
Good, sir? Okay, so section 44.5.1 point B is...
Scratched off, Your Worship.
All those in favor? Shall I carry?
Pass.
Pass. Okay, next one, sir?
That's it, Your Worship.
That's it? Well, I want to thank Councilor Yankoff for doing such a great job as acting chair. She'd be a great person to carry that position on, but that'll be up to her. I know her vice chair is over on the other side. Thank you, Councilor Yankoff. Thank you, Alex Forbes.
Thank you.
Police.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You want to bring him in?
Get back on schedule here, we'll go quick. So Protective and Emergency Services Committee met on June 22nd. Minutes are in your package. There's one resolution for consideration tonight. As always, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Chief, Deputy Chief will be here in a second. And that's it, unless you want me to keep talking.
Any questions? Councilor Durham.
Thank you for your report, Councilor Rivera. The question I have is, we passed a couple of, I know our meeting's coming up this week, and I just thought I'd ask, because I was asked it today. There's a new application for a police constable out there, and we passed 2 in April. I'm wondering, is this just for the one person, or are we now ready to hire 2? So that was my question. I don't know if you could answer it or not, or...
Is that an operational issue you can answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll get the Deputy Chief to, so I'll get him to repeat in a second, if you don't mind.
Must be a problem. Are they having pizza in there? Pizza?
No,
That sounds right. Very good, sir.
there is no food, Your Worship. Here.
Yeah, so Deputy Chief, I think Councilor Brown had a question for you.
Thank you. I know we recently put out for an application for a police constable, and I was asked today, and I know we're meeting this week, and I never had a chance to ask, but I said I'd ask it tonight. Is that one position, is that the 2 we passed in April in the budget? Is this job just for the one, or is it for 2 constables?
It could be, we have a vacant position right now, and it could be that plus 2 more, so it could be 3.
Oh, okay, that's more than positive. Thank you very
Good.
much. Appreciate that one.
Got your answer?
That's more than I was expecting. Great.
Thank you, Acting Chief. Any other questions?
Yeah.
No. Okay, you got a resolution? Oh, Councilor Tweel? Can you stand up to ask your question there, sir? Thank you.
In your report, you talked that discarded needles continue to be a problem in Van Court. Consideration being given to placing secure needle disposal container around the community outreach center, U Street. This question is, why do we need to have disposable containers around the community outreach center? Why do we need that?
Not on...
Councilor, do you want to yield to the Chief, Acting Chief?
Yeah.
Acting Chief Brad McConnell, could you please answer that? Thank you, sir.
Worship. Not on the outreach center proper, but in the residual areas around it, so the travel to and from community, or the outreach center would be areas of concern.
Chief, I know there's, at Ken's Corner in Robbins Donuts, they have a depository for needles, also in Ken's Corner itself. So is that regulated by themselves?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. Councilor Tweed, second question.
Well, if that's the issue, then I think we need to address what's taking place in this community with respect to drug usage. And I would strongly recommend that we start to ramp up the enforcement, because last thing I want is this community to become stigmatized with this whole idea. Well, this is where we'll put this particular community, because other facilities are there. They might not be there much longer, but nonetheless, I hope it's not to perpetuate, some of the activities that are already taking place, and saying, well, this is a rationalization. This will tolerate this accepted area. So I hope that's not the case, Deputy Chief.
Do you want to answer that?
Yeah.
Worship, when we look at harm reduction strategies across the country, needle disposal, dispensaries, outdoor, accessible, whether accessible is the proven harm reduction strategy. We're not trying to invent the wheel, we're just trying to keep our community safe and look at proven initiatives that work in other places.
Councilor Ramsey?
Yes, I'd just like to thank our Charlottetown Police Foresters. Once we had the citizen survey and they said they want to see the more visible and everything like that, and I know I made a few phone calls and a few issues in Ward 5, and I think other councillors did too, and the officers responded right away with it, and they're looking after these issues. So I'd like to thank them personally.
Thank you.
Chief?
Resolution?
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the Public Works Manager be authorized to cut grass, remove any garbage and other materials or debris, clean up and properly dispose of the same at the owner's expense at the following property located at 300 University Avenue, PID 359737, in accordance with the terms of dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly bylaw of the City of Charlottetown.
Question come?
Yes.
Questions come? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against, 10-0. Anything else to fire or anything like that? We're all ready, sir?
That's it for me. Thank you,
Good.
Richard.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next report is, that's right. Councilor Bernard, Parks, Recreation, Leisure.
Worship, the Parks and Recreation Leisure Committee met on July the 5th. Copy is in your package as usual. One resolution, Your Worship, for council consideration. Just some highlights, Your Worship. We'll talk about Parks and Recreation Leisure Committee, as you know, hosted an open house. An open house style public meeting at Simmons Rink, which we felt was the appropriate location, Your Worship, to host this meeting, to show the public our preliminary plans for the new replacement facility for the rink and pool. We're pleased to report, Your Worship, there was over 130 people attended to view the preliminary plans and had the opportunity to ask questions to staff, DRSA, which is the architectural firm, and IB Story, which is the engineering firm, Your Worship. We have both of them working on this project. It was great, Your Worship, to receive so much feedback. We do really appreciate it, and staff will be going through them. We'll be reviewing them and summarizing them. One thing, Your Worship, I'd like to point out that came up a few times was this is not just a rink with a pool. This is to be a facility that will be used year-round because of the new technology that we're going to be putting in the facility. And all the glass and so on will have natural light. This is a facility that we feel can have multiple sports throughout the summer season, and you'll have the ice sports during the winter season. So it will be a year-round facility, not just 6 months. So I just wanted to point that out there. Your Worship, I'm also pleased to announce the Park Ambassador program for Victoria Park started today. So you should notice some enhanced but friendly security within Victoria Park. And so please, that's begun. And Your Worship, there's a new batting cage that has been constructed just outside of City Diamond. So staff are working on completing the netting and the artificial turf. Should be ready to go by next week. So it's a brand new batting cage. Good. So Your Worship, one resolution for council consideration.
Good. Question? Councillor Duffy?
Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Duffy?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Bernard. Councillor Bernard, as you addressed the fact that we had an open house at Simmons last Tuesday night, which would have been the 6th of June, or July, I'm sorry. the next morning, I just heard pieces of it on the radio. I think it was CBC, I'm not sure though. I never got the guy's name, but he was going on about he and his group were the group that caused the new rink to be transferred from where it was planned to go at the university down to where it presently is planned, is at Simmons, next to the Simmons rink that's there now. And he was going on that his group was responsible for all these things. And like, I've never even met this guy. Yeah, but he's got this out on the airwaves the next morning after the open house. And like, I wasn't any too pleased with him. And he was talking about one of our counselors was a driving force in this group. But do you have the inside story on who these people are, what their purpose is? Like, they seem to be taking liberties they don't have. And people are asking me around, what's that guy talking about? I thought Charlottetown City Council was the decision maker in these areas. We all know why we had to move. It was infrastructure under the ground at the university, and we were quick to react, and we picked the spot which is next to the old rink. But this guy seemed to be taking all the credit, and I don't think we should sit back and just allow it. So do you have any additional details or information or overview even would help?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Bernard. Response?
Not really. I don't.
No comment?
I know the interview you were talking about, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, what I can tell you is, as everybody in here knows, I mean, council voted to put this facility at Cary. We all know why that fell through. So Plan B was always to go and replace Simmons Rink. So, you know, we hired the professionals that we hired. I think I talked about them earlier tonight with IB Story and DSRA architectural firm. So our staff and through our committee, we've been working on that. Have we had presentations or anything from anybody else, or have we had input? No. It's certainly city-driven, and it should be city-driven. So, not really sure. I can't really comment on the interview, but I can tell you from the city's point of view, this was a project that we took on. We had heard from John Hack, and we voted on the recommendations. And like I said, this was Plan B. This was the second, if Cary didn't well, this was Plan B. So we're moving down that road. We promised early on that we would do a preliminary plan meeting for the public. Certainly appreciate the public's input. Sure. We take it seriously. We encourage the public to input. That only makes the project better. And I think that's one of the reasons we had the preliminary plan and had everybody come in and review it, just to make sure we're going down that right road. Having said that, like I said, there's a lot of good comments. We're reviewing them all through our staff. And I have to say, a lot of the comments that so far are really part of the plan, but it was a preliminary plan, so not everything showed up on that plan. So, from what we're hearing from the feedback of what the plans are for the facility, it's looking good. So.
Thank you.
Follow up there, Councilor?
Secondary to
sounds good.
This gentleman went on to talk about the walking track. It wasn't wide enough, and I only got tidbits of it too. It wasn't wide enough, or it wasn't enough lanes in it. Like, he was critical to that point, but that's good. That's more than I knew when I came here tonight. I mean, but I think the clamps should be put on this person. He can't be going on public radio claiming to have done all this wonderful work when we have never met him. I've never met the guy. So thank you, Mr. Captain.
I can tell you that the plan did show, I believe it's 2 or 3 lanes, and I'm not sure how many lanes this gentleman knew before, but that's all kind of part of the consultation. And like I said, we have 2 professional firms that we're very pleased to be dealing with. They've got a lot of experience in designing rinks. So it's a city-driven project, and it'll continue to be a city-driven project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McLeod, did you have a question?
Yes, thank you very much, Worship. Thank you very much, Councilor Bernard, for your report. Just want to commend the Parks and Rec staff first for the batting cage at City Diamond. It's been, we have a great complex there, but it was always a question that teams from other parks when they come to visit was, how come you don't have a batting cage? So it's a great added piece, and it's great for the youth. And even when the ball game's not on, the youth can go down there and work on their practice on pitching and hitting. So it's good to see. Thank you very much. And just in my package there under Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities, there was some points of interest for your manager of parks to look at your Simmons complex as far as hearing and seeing disabilities that he would have in Rincon. At the time of our minutes, Frank had not reported to him. So we do have a meeting Wednesday. Is there something, could you give a heads up to Frank to perhaps give a report to the City Board of Disabilities?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good.
Respond to that?
I will respond to the good counselor. Everybody knows Terry's been well involved in baseball, and he's umpired for years, so I'm sure he's very happy.
Ball
to
player
see
himself?
Brand new batting cage down there, so, yeah, thank you very much for the comment.
Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Bernard, for your report.
Okay.
I just want to comment, we had some emails back and forth. In the last number of weeks, we lost two prominent residents from Ward 6, Mr. Billy Mulligan and Mr. Roger Burt. Both families have contacted me and expressed their thanks for us taking a moment of silence for them. I knew them both very well, and during our discussions the last week or so, we discussed if you could rename a park. What's the process? I looked at our website and I couldn't find anything, and I don't see Frank here today, so I'm just wondering if someone could give me some information. Is there a formal process that you'd have to go through to try to change a name, or is it not possible? Or I just wanted to leave that open to see if I can get some information. Thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
And it's like I said to you, it's this new unfamiliar territory. I've seen other parks named after people. I've never seen a name change. This has already had a name change. So I would assume that, Councillor, you would bring some information to the Parks and Rec Committee on the reasons why you want to change, and what usually the person's done a lot for the community or what have you. So I would just bring that information to the Parks and Rec Committee. The Parks and Rec Committee can look at it as you're a member of it, and then come to the Committee of the Whole, the Committee of Council can decide. What I assume, like I said, I've never been involved in a park that was already named to change it, but I'm assuming that's the goal.
Yeah, we changed the name of the sportsplex to Cody Banks, but that was a contribution, financial contribution. Wait, now, Councillor McLeod, and then Councillor Yankoff. Councillor McLeod.
Just to comment on Councillor Duran's question to the chair. What we did at Victoria Park there, and Charlie Ryan, of course, has always been part of that Victoria Park thing, and then of course when Vern Hanahan passed away, what do you do now, right? And then you're kind of in that same dilemma. So what we had done there was we did a memorial area, and then of course there's something there for the boys as well that had passed away, the ball players. So there's a few memorials there at the park, and something like that, where you maybe do both at the one park, and without disturbing the name, because that's a pretty sensitive area sometimes, with depending on what park it is special. But that's some idea that maybe we could have a bust above them, that type of things.
Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLeod.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thanks for your report, Councillor Bernard. The other suggestion, just to follow up on Councillor Duran's suggestion, would be as the city grows, there'll be more parks and more green spaces, and it's certainly something we could, create a list or so that we have different, people that have been special to the community that we could look to when we are in the process of naming new parks, green spaces. Just an idea.
Something, yeah. Good, sir. Take that under advisement. Okay. Do we have a resolution there, Mr. Kelly?
Moved by Councillor Bernard, second by Councillor Cody, or Deputy Mayor Cody, that as per the recently advertised request for proposals for the Ellen Creek deck restoration, the City of Charlottetown accepts a bid of $52,844.45 plus applicable taxes from ABT Construction Inc. Your worship.
Okay. Question called?
Yes.
Councillor Ramsey, thank you very much. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Thank you. Is that the only one?
Yes, your worship.
So we have the next report, and that's
Water and sewer.
Water and sewer. Is Mr. Richard around there? Mr. McEwen? Our chief engineer for water and wastewater? There he is. Right in there, Mr. McEwen.
Thank
Councillor
you very
Duran.
much, Your Worship. The Water and Sewer Utility Committee met on June 17th, 2021, and the minutes are included in your email package. We have two resolutions for your consideration, and during the discussion this week with their manager, he would also like me to remind the residents of this fine city to try and conserve water as much as we can during the hot summer months. So if anyone has any questions or concerns, we will both try to answer them as best we can. Thank you.
You have a question?
Just a comment.
Manager?
Or a question, yes. Is the rain barrels still available? I had a couple of calls on that.
So we still have about 9 rain barrels.
$6
Okay, good, thank you very much.
Yes.
Your worship, if I may.
Yes, you can, Mr. McCune. Anytime you want to say, you're going to talk about the fiber optics?
No, I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Rain barrels, sort of, but for council's information and the public's information, I believe finance just put out an announcement. The water and sewer utility, you can now pay your bills through an online system, and you can also register to have your bills sent electronically.
Good.
And we will have a draw for all the residents who make that switch.
Good.
For a free rain barrel. There's going to
Good.
be 3 free rain barrels up in that draw, so.
You're going to give away the 9 of them or just one?
Welcome to come and buy some, but also they should make that switch so that we can electronically send them their bill. And that would be great for the utility and great for our customers. So there is a new online system that we've been working on for too long, but it is now available to those customers who would rather receive their bills electronically. And to encourage customers to sign up for that, there will be a draw for rain barrels.
So 9 barrels, 9 draws. Okay? Councilor Bernard.
I guess Richard through the chair, if the chair wants to take it, I'm just wondering, and that's great news, having an electronic. So is the plan to do 1 bill a year? Is the plan is to send electronically 4 bills a year?
Yep, so.
You're all right.
Great answer.
Yeah, so we have customers who we send bills to every 2 months, or larger customers. Most of our residential customers, they're quarterly, and we continue to have bills go out quarterly.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good news, electronically.
Yeah. Catching up to another.
Have another comment.
You want another comment? Sure.
Thank you very much.
You want to go to 10 barrels?
Is there any chance I can win? No.
Go on,
Anyway, just for information purposes, like, my neighbor got me onto it, and it's great. I mean, the rain barrels, I got 2, and then that wasn't enough because it works so well. But I have a 3/4 horsepower pump that I put in the rain barrel, right? And then, you're waiting forever for gravity, right? So it's kind of like, but when you have the pump in it, it just hooks to the garden hose and away you go.
Yeah.
And it's as good as, like, it's actually, they even promote that it's better on your car finish, right? Because there's no chemicals, chlorine or anything that comes from waterworks, right? So it's a more natural element, and it's easier on your car, and of course it's better for your grass and lawn too. So it just, people really don't think, I never thought of it until I seen him with it. I thought, geez, what a great idea. So I just thought I'd bring that up. Thank you.
The fluoride wouldn't help us, right?
No.
Okay.
Worship, moved by Councilor
Do you want to
Drawn.
go? Yep, thank you.
Second by Councilor Twill. Whereas the City of Charlottetown is committed to continuous improvement in the asset management and has been presented with an opportunity to participate in an asset management improvement project, be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown approves the submission of a grant request to the Federation of Municipalities Municipal Asset Management Program for the Can Forecast Collaborative Project, and that the City of Charlottetown commits to providing water and sewer infrastructure and operational history to assist the work. Therefore be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown commit $5,000 from the water and sewer budget for its portion of the project cost, Your Worship.
Questions, comments? All those in favor, please put up your hand. 10-0. Want to go to the next one, sir?
Your Worship, move Councilor Drawn, second by Councilor Deputy Mayor Cody, that as per the conditions of the tender, the City of Charlottetown water and sewer plant pumping station upgrades, the submission of Filtrum Incorporated in the amount of $1,931,400 plus local taxes be accepted, Your Worship.
Question, comment? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those against? None. Okay, 10-0. That's it, Councilor Duran?
That's it.
That's it. Thank you, Mr. McKeown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Richard.
Next report is Public Works, and it's Councilor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The Public Works Urban Beautification Committee met on June 23rd with the draft municipal package, and the Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities met on June the 8th. and the draft minutes are there as well. Any questions of myself and Mr. Adams, will try to answer. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Councillor Jacob.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You have a question? Yeah.
I do. I just have a question. Thank you for your report, Councillor McLeod. As the councillor for Ward 1, I've had several calls and concerns and complaints around our skunk and raccoon issues with changing companies, people not hearing back. And I realize that some protocols have been put in place, but I'm just wondering, has this been sorted? Can you now call and have this service taken care of? And if you have any updates for myself, council, and the public.
Thank you very much.
Councillor McLeod.
Yanko.
Any update?
And I will say that yes, there is a system in place, but I will let operations, Scott Adams, to answer
Mr.
that
Adams?
directly and what issues there have been.
You yield to Mr. Adams, Chief Engineer? Okay.
Your Worship, so yes, so there have been some concerns. We've received a number of complaints too about it. So since then, we have talked to the provider last week about the concerns and the issues that we're hearing. Since then, I believe they have implemented all of the requested changes, from fixing the call number was one concern to ensuring that we get callbacks right away. That was, I want to say, mid last week when we confirmed that with everything. And since then, I'm not sure if we've received any complaints about it since then. But if you do hear any more, please let us know. We are tracking all that, and we will be following up again. And one system we have put in place ourselves is we have one of our staff that are calling and following up with just periodic homeowners who have called to get a skunk and raccoon trap on their yard, just to follow up and see how the service has improved since we have talked to our provider. So we have put in a number of patrols to monitor and hopefully go forward and fix all these issues.
Thank you.
Good. Councillor?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to follow up on Councillor Yankov's questions, to start the complaints, Councillor McLeod, I guess Bill wants got the answer as well. But again, even around the use of the traps that were being used, but they weren't suffice, they weren't sufficient, they weren't the right traps. Even had a complaint that there was a raccoon, I believe, that was left in a trap for over 3 days. But you know, that's cruel. And I think that's a big issue. So again, if the provider isn't providing the right service, and this should have been washed out prior to awarding it, it just seems like a lot of problems compared to the service that we were getting in the past. We weren't getting those kind of in place. So again, I would just like to at least state those. I think you received these 75 or so calls.
And I forwarded them to Public
Yeah.
Works. And I think Mo or someone in Public Works is passing it on to others. Councillor McLeod, did you want to add?
Nothing, I'll let Scott, but at the same time, anytime we have a new provider, sometimes there's some hiccups, right, guys? And I think that's what's going on here. But hopefully, I think we're on the right track, and Scott can finish that up.
Yes, Your Worship. I think one of the biggest hiccups in the beginning was the delay in awarding it. So because of the time between when the tender closed and when it was awarded, the vendor that we approved the work to, they kind of thought that the work wasn't being awarded at all. So they were kind of surprised when it was awarded, and we gave them very short notice to get everything turned around. And so, again, like I said, we had that meeting with them, our staff spoke with them last week, and we are hoping for good results. Like I say, the past couple of days, haven't heard of any major complaints since we've had that discussion with them. And again, we are following up with various home residents of the city, and just checking in with how they felt the service was going.
So, Councillor McLeod, the complaints go through Public Works, right?
Yes, definitely got more reviews.
And they flush it out by following up to ensure that everything was taken care of.
I'm sure this past week has been much better than the week
Okay.
So far, that's good.
Councillor Twill.
Well, the report, as you know, I'm very persistent on the residents regarding the active transportation pathway on Powers Road. And when we talk about the active transportation pathway, we're talking 8-foot width, where it's completely, totally segregated from vehicle traffic for safety reasons. There's tremendous amount of traffic on Towers Road, and residents are certainly looking forward to an active transportation pathway that is equal and equivalent to the other pathway that was constructed throughout the city of Charlottetown. So, looking for an update. I've read your report here, but I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about in terms of shoulder area. When we had our community meeting, that 60 people attended, we're talking the active transportation pathway that we're constructing all over the city. And with the amount of vehicle traffic on that street, it's more than warranted and long overdue. So I'm looking for an update.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much, Councilor Trio, for your question. So getting back to the start of this whole process, Public Works has committed that there will be an active transportation pathway through there once that development was done, and because of the infrastructure that has to be put into it. So, but in the meantime, we do want the Public Works Department, through yourself and the rest of council, have heard that Towers Road has some issues there, and although, you know, both sides, there's quite a, you know, we did widen the street, right? I mean, we did what we could with what we could at the time, and so right now we're hearing you what you have to say. We're asking the engineer of the Public Works Department to try to come up with a short-term fix to this, so that people can feel safe on one side of the street, particularly, and then once we get all the construction done, then we plan on doing the water infrastructure, the storm management, and then the active path on top of that. Once we get the construction out of the way, but that's been our you know, since the start, that's always been our path going forward, was to wait until all the construction was done, because we don't want to do all this kind of work and have these kind of tractors with bulldozers and cream on top of our water infrastructure.
Second question there, Councilor Twill.
Thank you, Mr. Clough, for your answer. Just to follow up on the construction, I know I've had discussions with the planning department, and some of that construction might not be for another 5 years. So there's only one road going in where there's two other proposed facilities that will be built. Again, I wouldn't say terribly fast, but the assumption you have to start planning is that we're talking 5 years away. So I appreciate, you know, you're looking at the interim, but I think we can even go a little further and expedite that, because that is one busy road. And we have people in Mr. Cody's ward, Mr. Duran's ward, myself as well, and all the people in that community are looking forward to that. Well, again, where it's totally segregated from the vehicle traffic, where all demographics can feel safe.
Just before, Mr. Adams, on page 5 of 5 of the report, Pond Street, the reconstruction, will that be an active transportation pathway going down there?
No.
No?
No, Your Worship, will not be a concrete sidewalk for that.
It will be.
Yes.
Okay. But 700,000 came from the gas tax. I think the contract was what, 1.6 million?
Plus applicable taxes, that's correct. Yeah.
Go ahead there, Councillor Duffy.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Your Worship, I think everyone should know.
Can I just interrupt just for a second? So, Councilor Trio had a second question here. So, and I had given him an update from the original, but I think Scott Adams might want to give an update as to what we're going to do in the future.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
You want to do that? Thanks.
Your Worship, so what we're looking at, one of the options that was asked, if we look at it, we shift the road over to one side and widen the shoulder, make one paved shoulder wide. Problem with doing that is now you shift the lane right over the center of the crown of the road. So the crown of the road is essentially a peak, and so low profile vehicles and other vehicles like that can bottom out on those, so it's never recommended to put vehicles over the crown of the road. You keep them on either side. So that's, unfortunately, we don't recommend that. So what we're looking at is, I believe the lanes are right now about 3.7, 3.5 meters wide. We're going to try to narrow them in a little bit, widen as much of the paved shoulder as we can, and then look at putting the flexi post along the side there to give some division from the vehicles and the pedestrians. So it gives a bit of safety. It also, when you put physical objects on the side of the road, it does allow, or it forces drivers to slow down because it makes them uncomfortable. They don't want to hit them. So we think it will have a positive benefit in the short term for this work.
Councillor Duffy, just before you go, whoever's on the teleconference, Mr. Kelly, could you please mute your phones, because feedback is coming through the chamber. So please mute your phones or mute your laptop. Councillor Duffy, you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Everyone should know that, like, when we redesign roads or rebuild roads or any kind of structures around where people walk or drive, it's for safety purposes. You've got to demonstrate that there's a safety concern on a particular road before we start rebuilding or whatever. So to that end, I asked Deputy Police Chief Arnold to give me a check, a search for the last 3 years of Towers Road. Anything that Towers Road was involved in pertaining to motor vehicle accidents. Because Towers Road was in the search mandate, so to speak, what we got back was there was 10 accidents in the last 3 years. But it had nothing to do, none of the 10 had anything to do with safety or design of the road. 9 of them occurred on Mount Edward Road at the corner of Towers Road. Therefore, there goes 9 that have nothing to do, the vehicles weren't even on Towers Road, but they were in a collision on Mount Edward Road at that corner. The 10th one did occur on Towers Road down at the other end on the crosswalk that's closest to the university, to the Charlottetown Mall. And in that particular instance, there was a person in the crosswalk and the driver failed to yield the right-of-way to the pedestrian and struck the pedestrian, and the pedestrian had minor injuries. But it had nothing to do with the safety of the road. So now here we're going to spend $250,000 to make a road safer that hasn't had an accident on it in 3 years. It just doesn't make sense. It's just plain silly.
Okay, can we just, because we did get a summary from the chief engineer, right? And there's a plan in going forward, right? Mr. Adams? Do we need to? No. Yeah, I think we're all right. Can we just go with the resolutions, guys?
Can I just make one comment as a member of the...
Of the committee? Yeah, it was your first time to speak anyways, or second, yes.
It won't be my first.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Just to follow up from Councillor Duffy, I mean, I've been on Public Works Committee and still am, and although we all have identified areas in our wards for active transportation, and it's such an important thing as we move forward, and we can only do so many each year, so we look to the Public Works Department to give us recommendations for what needs to be done first. And Towers Road was, although it's very important for all of our areas to have these active transportation pathways, Towers Road was not one that was identified for this year. And however, we are still accommodating Councillor Tweel's request to even do something. So I think that we should be very, very grateful for what the committee and what the department is willing to do on a short-term basis as we try and maneuver through into the future for other active transportation. So I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Councillor Twill, just sum it up, please.
Yeah.
Just sum it up. Let's, every month it's I know you keep asking the chief engineer.
I know that. Now I know how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, so regarding the active transportation pathway, it's not accommodating Councillor Tweel's request. It's accommodating the constituents that live in that community that commute up and down Towers Road in a very unsafe manner. And if anyone here thinks that's safe, then I can hold another community meeting and the rest of that community will tell you a lot different. So, Councillor McLeod, I think we'll work through it, but with the long-term goal, with the active transportation pathway, it is a major, major concern, safety concern in that community.
Yeah. Councillor Cron, can we just end it like...
Well, I'm not talking about that. I have another 2
Oh,
questions.
yes. Questions? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And
Thank you for
appreciate you
your
asking
Councillor
questions.
McLeod. Beg your pardon?
We appreciate you asking questions.
Thank you. I had a lengthy conversation with a gentleman this morning, very upset, of course. They're paving a cul-de-sac up in their ward and not his cul-de-sac. So I said, there's nothing I can do. I can ask the question tonight. The streets are rated. What ones are worse first, right? So I said, I'll get that information. So if someone could give me that yearly rating, well, where's my street? Well, I'm not sure. I don't have that information, but I'll ask tonight. So I said, this year we only have $1.5 million. Last year we had $3 million because of the gas tax. We're not paving as much, and he was saying it's 25, 30 years since his street was paved. I said, look, once they get the ratings in, then I'll give you that information. He also, on the second question, it's an operational matter that once that cul-de-sac was built, I think 2 or 3 years ago, Councillor Cody was the councillor for that area. It was announced that they were going to put some type of infill. They're flat. He has no ditches at all or no drains. And we brought that up with our mayor.
With the neighbors.
To see the people. So I got the second part of that today. Where are we at? And I said, all I can do is ask, right?
That's
So-
what you're doing, good.
So could maybe, I don't know if you could ask it or
How do you want to handle
Yeah,
it?
our manager.
I'll answer the first part, and then I'll let Scott answer the second part.
And hopefully Bill C-30 gets through the Senate, and then there should be more money coming through the tax, gas tax.
Thank you very much, Councilor Duran, for your question. So, so I guess the best thing to do there is, I can hear first tonight, to make sure that Mr. Adams looks at that cul-de-sac, and if you want to put that information forward, who the person is, I'm sure Scott would gladly talk to the gentleman, and I guess one of the explanations is we all think we know how a street gets rated, but we're not the engineers or the experts at it, so that would be a great explanation for Scott to do, right, to be able to explain to him why that street may be not getting done. As far as your other ditch infill, that's one of the problems that we've had with ditch infill, is that water drainage sometimes doesn't, on the surface, doesn't get taken away, right? In water that makes it into the ditches gets pulled away, but if there isn't, even I have streets there, some of them have been around a long time, and there's no, if you want to, for example, Ronnie Carriage House, if you look in front of Ronnie's house on Linden Avenue, it's a swimming pool every time it rains, because there's no catch basins on his side of the street. So at some point that was filled in, but they, at the time, they didn't really think about surface water drainage. And for example, Greensview Drive in my area is another one. Because of the way it was designed originally, and the best way to deal with it was the active transportation path is the same level as the street, right? Because of water, we couldn't curb it, couldn't make it higher because of the drainage issues. So then what happens? People are now parking on the active transportation, so you can't win, right? But those concerns are good concerns, and I think Mr. Adams given the opportunity can talk to the gentleman and see if we can't work that out and give him a heads up as to when something will be done in his council cul-de-sac. Thank you.
That's perfect, thank you.
You're going to follow up with an email, Councillor Duran?
I already did, yeah.
Good.
Thank
I
you.
forgot to send it today. I was wondering why you didn't respond, but I didn't send it, so it's my fault.
You send it, he'll respond, right there, Chief Engineer?
And could you CC me on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, 2 resolutions,
There
Mr.
are three.
Kelly?
There are
01?
There are 3.
3? Okay.
First of all, moved by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the tender for Hillsborough Community Center parking lot resurfacing, the submission of island construction in the amount of $84,880 plus applicable taxes be accepted.
Question call?
Question call. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0? Yeah, 10-0.
Your worship, moved by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Duffy, that as per condition of the request for proposals on engineering services, Eastern Gateway Phase 1, the submission of EXP Services, Inc. in the amount of $85,300 plus all applicable taxes be accepted.
Councillor Yankoff, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a
Go right
comment
ahead.
on this resolution. I won't be supporting this resolution. It came first to Public Works, where we had agreed at the time that we would be proceeding with Coles. So I just wanted to say that I won't be supporting.
Councillor McLeod, do you have something to say as chair of the committee?
Yeah, I do. So I also wasn't too happy when I seen that either. But digging into it further, I mean, the optics of this doesn't look good for all of us, because we're publicly saying we're going to give it to one contractor, and then we send it to finance, and it goes to another direction. Now, to be truthful to the finance, this stuff can happen pretty easy. It's a good learning curve for us, but after seeing the actual results from finance, who we thought we wanted to give it to was going to actually finish third, not even second. So it was just something that happened in the administration, but it does look bad when we publicly in one committee say we're going to give it to this one, and then because all our meetings are online now, right? So one person thought they're getting it, and now not get it. So it's important that we, that we try and get all this stuff right before we get, before we get sent to committees for approval. So, but at the end of the day, the choice is being made. So, thank you.
Okay, questions called?
Yes.
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Cody, yes. Councilor Bernard, yes. Councilor McCabe, yes. Councilor Duffy, yes. Councilor Ramsey, yes. Duran, yes. Councilor Twill, yes. Councilor McLeod, yes. Those against, please raise your hand. So Councilor Verne, you were for?
Yeah.
Oh, 9-1. Okay.
Your worship, moved by Councilor McLeod, second by Councilor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the request for proposal on Engineering Services Limited, Victoria Park roadway and active transportation corridor, the submission of VXP in the amount of $41,480 plus all applicable taxes be accepted.
Okay.
Questions called?
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0.
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All those against? 9-1. Thank you. Okay, there you are, sir. I think there should be 3. Okay, good. Economic Development. Councillor Judy McCabe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Economic Development, Tourism and Event Management Committee met on June the 16th. The open draft minutes are in your package. The Arts Advisory Board did not meet since the last council meeting. We will look at one resolution this evening. Just to provide an update, our Economic Development Officer is in the process of updating the city's investment profile, which is a key business attraction tool for the destination. He's currently working with both internal and external partners to ensure the scope of the document is detailed and information presented is accurate. He also recently met with the president of the Construction Association, the PEI. Anyone here on council who would be interested in receiving a tour of their new training facility is encouraged to reach out to Stephen Novak and he can set a time and a date for you to take that tour. Our Capital City Canada Day celebrations were a great success with strong audience turnout throughout the day. Special thanks to the members of council who took part in those planned activities. The City Hall Visitor Information Center is now also open for the season and has started to see some uptake. Staff have been also serving as goodwill ambassadors around the town, talking with tourists who have begun to return to Charlottetown with the opening of the Atlantic Bubble. It's expected that the traffic will continue to increase as we move toward welcoming visitors from across the country. There are two new performance spaces on the waterfront, which will also add increased vibrancy to the area. The first is at Peaks Wharf in the courtyard below Peaks Quay. I've seen some pictures of that. It's absolutely gorgeous. And the second one is on the newly expanded outdoor patio at Founders Hall. Again, if you can get out, and encourage everyone to get out and see the great work that's happening. We'd like to give special thanks to CADC as well as the Charlottetown Harbour Authority for their work on this project. As previously mentioned, the Tourism and Event Management team has been working tirelessly to help ensure a path forward for annual summer events. This team also has worked with local organizers to help establish new events this summer, including the Island Tides Yoga and Wellness Festival, Rock the Dock, Heat Wave Festival, a Busker Festival, Iron Mike Festival, and Together at Last Summer Festival, just to name a few. The team has also been hard at work on event action efforts.
Councillor McCabe, just one second. Whoever's on the teleconference, could you please mute the phone? Hello? Can you mute the phone, please? Who's on?
There's two or three on your worship.
Are they staff people?
Yes.
Okay. Could you
But they're delayed.
Yeah,
That's why.
late, yeah.
But they
Please mute the phone.
They're supposed to be on mute.
Here, Julie, you just killed connection.
If you watch the meetings, they're always delayed.
They're off.
That's why you have to use your phone.
Okay. Who's ever on the teleconference, mute the phone, please.
Or computer, your worship.
Well, mute the computer, the laptop, the desktop. Wouldn't be on the TV, would it?
Mute their voice.
Pull the plug. Here.
Pull the plug, yeah, pull the plug, yeah, Mr. Kelly.
Sorry there, Councillor McCabe.
No, that's
It's just
okay.
interrupting your great presentation.
Oh, I know, I'm sure. Basically, at the end of...
Could you please, thank you, just
wrap-
resume?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
To wrap it up, just to stay tuned, there are a number of good news announcements that will be pending in the coming months. And with the country beginning to reopen and travel restrictions relaxing, the efforts are only increasing moving forward. So thank you to the staff for their great work. Any questions, I'll do my best to answer, and we do have the one resolution tonight. Thank you.
And
The resolution?
Moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor McLeod, that the City Council endorse the installation of a mural painted by the PEI Association of Newcomers for to Canada Artist Circle in Robin Hood Park, and that the design of such mural attached has been approved and endorsed by the Arts Advisory Board.
Questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Steve. Yeah. Councillor Twilio, Environment and Sustainability, please.
Monthly transit ridership for June 2021 was 42,326 compared to June 2020, with the ridership was at 30,467. City's transit system is currently maintaining 86% of its pre-pandemic ridership, which is great recovery so far. Monthly ridership from high school participants in the student transit project was 779 this month. Bike Week took place from June 14th to the 21st. This year's celebration of cycling aimed to promote purposeful trips using active for transportation as well as awareness for cycling safety, such as the necessity of wearing a helmet. The week included a variety of events and giveaways, including family cycle training, group bike rides, the installation of the Cycling and Childhood Outdoor Heritage Exhibit, and a Bike to School Day initiative that drew hundreds of students to hop on their bikes. As part of the city's energy performance project, lightning measures for the city's facilities have been approved for Bell Alliance Center and will be finalized for East Link Center this week. All health and safety discussions have taken place between the contractors, and the local contractors are ready to break ground as early as next week. HVAC and other power quality measure details should be presented to staff shortly for approval. Material is still being processed by the subcontractor for the building envelope. The project is on track to be delivered within the 18-month schedule. In partnership with the PEI Watershed Alliance, the Town of Stratford, and Creative PEI and technical project partners, the City of Charlottetown will be installing a living shoreline demonstration site at the intersection of Richardson Lane and Queen Elizabeth Hospital main entrance between the dates of July 19th, 23rd, 2021. This project facilities staff capacity building and further public education around the nature-based solutions, and will act as a test case for use of living shorelines as a method of shoreline protection in the City of Charlottetown in response to climate change. The city's climate change pilot project, Resilient Parks, Home, and People, is well underway. This past month, the city staff have performed 12 free home flood risk assessments using the Intact Center for Climate Change's assessment tool. These assessments are intended to support homeowners in preparing their homes for the impacts of climate change and reducing their flood risk. We have one resolution for council consideration.
Moved by Councillor Tweel, second by Councillor Bernard. Sorry.
Oh, you have a question?
I just have one question.
You go right ahead. No, I just...
Councilor Tweel, this project you just talked about, Murchison Lane and the shorefront, can you explain that a little bit? It's the first I've heard of that. What they plan on doing?
Well, just from my notes here,
Ramon's on the line if you wish.
okay. Well, from a technical aspect, I will ask Ramon.
Okay.
I just want to know what the problem is.
Yeah, Ramon, can you please answer Councilor Bernard's question?
Sure. Everybody hear me okay?
Great.
Okay, great. So you just asked about the Living Shoreline project. So
Yes.
this is a partnership with the Watershed Alliance in Prince Edward Island and the town of Stratford and Charlottetown have created PEI. So what we're doing along the shoreline there is an intervention known as Living Shoreline. It's intended to sort of mitigate some of the shoreline erosion using natural elements. So it would be like planting marram grass, like other types of planting along the shoreline in order to stabilize the bank. And we're testing it compared to some of the armor stone interventions that have been used in other places. So this is a sort of a new sort of to the east coast of Canada, but it's a style of Living Shorelines is a style of sort of climate change intervention that's being used more commonly on coastal areas. And we're doing this site because there's a lot of erosion along the active transportation lane by the gazebo that goes along that section of the highway.
Thank you, Ramona. So,
You're familiar with? Go ahead.
I guess that's what my question, because it's been eroding there quite a bit. I always thought it was a provincial jurisdiction. So is the province helping at all, or because it is getting awful close to the pathway that we put in there probably 15 years ago?
Yes, so Your Worship, the province is coming to the table on a number of things. We only have a small amount of funding through this urban watershed funding application, but the province is going to come in and remove the gabion wall that's there already. They're going to do some of the but we'll need to have a backhoe in, and there'll be some material that they'll need to bring in as well as some in-kind support. So at this point, the city does not have, other than staff time, doesn't have a cash contribution going towards this. It's all money that we've received through this joint application to Environment Canada. So it is a partnership, and we'll be looking to put it in at that location.
No, that's perfect. I know that was the point of my question. They have to bring some material in to shore up the erosion that's there. It's getting awful close to the waterway. So that's good to hear. Thank you, Ramona.
Councillor Cloud.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Tyrrell, for your report. Just a little shout out to your committee and Ramona and to the former chair. He was pretty good fellow too. Anyway,
Heard that. Stop around.
so at Macaulay Park, we all know it's a flat area, so when the water comes in, sometimes the water sits there and it doesn't really go anywhere. So through the Department of Environment last year, we came up with the idea where we changed kind of a little bit of the ditch work, and we added gravel and rock and created the bank so that there's not as much silt running in. And so we got a little bit, it's working so well that we got a little bit of a scare there this year. We thought it might have been oil coming into the park because it's had that slippery, multicolored look to the water. I was like, oh my God, what's this, right? So we all got quite scared, but it turned out the Department of Environment, what's going on is the algae is breaking down faster because of the sun and the water and the heat and everything. So it's really working really well, and I suggest it's something we should think about more at some of these other parks, places where we have water that's sitting, it really mitigates the problem, and the sun dries it up and doesn't sit as well. So just a shout out to Ramona and yourself.
Okay.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you want to follow up with that?
I had another question.
For him?
If I could, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ramona, I guess through the chair.
Yeah.
In the SWITCH program, I'm sure everybody read it. It's a fantastic program. Where so you can get the energy efficiency.
Well, why don't we put the resolution on the floor and then you can...
Well, the question I have is, if you look at the minutes, I don't know if it's a mistake or it's true.
Yeah, go ahead.
Once the homeowner has selected and implemented their energy retrofits, they will begin repayment of their loan, which will have an interest rate of less than 0%.
Zero.
And I'm wondering how that's going to work. So I assume that's just a typo. It is 0%.
0%. Less, I'd like to get that kind of a loan.
What else can we get on that?
Is it on, Councillor, that Ramona answered that? Ramona?
Certainly, Your Worship, that must be a typo there. I know there's some different formulas that FCM's using on our interest rate that make it not, like, it doesn't quite always add up to 0%, but what the homeowner will actually see is 0% interest rate on these loans. So if there's a correction needed to the minutes, we can take care of that.
It'd be nice to see less than this 0%. but
Thanks for running.
That's for another time. Okay, question on the floor?
Your Worship,
Okay, you want to read through?
moved by Council Trio, second by Council Bernard, that the switch program policy as attached be approved, and that the city of Charlottetown sign the Federation of Municipalities funding agreement that will provide 0% interest financing and grant monies for the switch program administration to the city and its partners, and further that the switch program be officially launched on July 15, 2021.
Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Twill, that's it? And our next report is Councillor Kevin Ramsey, Strategic Priorities and Intergovernmental Cooperation.
Thank you, Your Worship. We met Thursday, June 24th. The minutes are in your package. The Affordable Housing Committee did not meet since the last council. The Youth Engagement Committee did not meet since the last council. And we have one resolution for your consideration. Any questions, we'll certainly provide answers.
Councillor Twill.
Thank you for your report, Councillor Ramsey. Councillor Ramsey, you probably don't have the answers to my question tonight, but I'd like to make the request for you as Chair of Intergovernmental Affairs, the City of Charlottetown. With the relocation of the Outreach Center up to Houston Street at the Charlottetown Curling Club in between two city schools, what I'm requesting from you, sir, is who was involved from the City of Charlottetown with the discussions with the province to support relocating the Outreach Center from Smith Lodge down to Weymouth Street to the Charlottetown Curling Club. And what I'd like to have is a copy of the minutes, who attended these meetings, correspondence, who was directly involved. I know when the announcement was made, the former Chair of Planning, Mike Duffy, made a comment. He was all in favor of the relocation, as well as Councillor Lanny Dankoff as well. So what I'm looking for is specifics, particulars, as to who was directly involved at the elected level and at the appointed level, representing the City of Charlottetown. I'd like to get all that information. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question, Councilor Peel, and we'll certainly bring it up, and we'll have those minutes for you at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the information.
Thank you, Councillor.
You're welcome.
Good answer, Councillor Ramsey. Any other questions? Okay. Do we have a resolution? And Councillor Rivard is in conflict, so he must leave the room, go downstairs, and exit.
So, Your
Yes, we
Worship,
have one resolution, Your Worship.
moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Drawn, that as per section 15.4 of the Municipal Government Act of PEI, the City of Charlottetown submit in writing to the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission, IRAC, a proposal to restructure the City of Charlottetown's boundaries so to include a portion of the unincorporated community of Marshfield as noted on the attached map, Your Worship. Map one.
Resolution's in front of you. Councillor Twill. Speaking of the resolution?
Pardon me?
Speaking of the resolution, right?
What else are you speaking?
So, okay, no, that's all right. I just asked a question. And you can answer the question then.
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Okay. So, the first question I have is, okay, did members of City Council meet with the community at large? Like, was there community meetings? I apologize if
No.
So, okay, so,
It was
no
senior
members of City
administration.
Council, pardon me?
It was senior administration plus Chantel and Cindy were there to take minutes. They had two public meetings,
Right.
and then had one, the third meeting was with the private landowners.
But I think there was an
This is all
invitation for us to
listed.
come.
Yeah, there was, I went to the second one at New York.
Invited to
We were
speak
invited
to
on.
the community?
Yeah, at the meeting there.
Mr.
Mr. Kelly, would you like to
do you want to give,
sort of clarify
you want to yield to
that?
Mr. Kelly?
Just
Yes, if you don't mind.
Yes, go
clarify, Your
ahead.
Worship. Staff acted on council's direction. There were two meetings on June 17th, 2018. Council...
June what, sir? June 17th?
June 17th, 2018.
Yes.
The director of council to hold a community meeting in Marshfield to discuss the potential annexation of part of the community adjacent to the City of Charlottetown's current boundary. And subsequent October 20th, 2020, council directed to proceed to commencing with annexation process, Your Worship. So we did meet with the community 3 times. We also met with the landowners involved as well to have that discussion. all but one landowner's had concern, only one of the 8 had concerns moving forward. So there were other concerns in terms of the water usage for the greenhouse operation, but for the most part, there was one that was basically opposed. If you recall, we went in to meet with the community with a larger parcel of land, but after the discussion with the community and with council, it ended up going with the 8 parcels that are noted on map 1, Your Worship.
Right. So, Mr. Kelly, the meeting I went to there, back in June, or was it May? I only went because I saw the ad in the newspaper. I wasn't invited, but I went out to the meeting. Councilor Twillie, you have another question? Second question?
So, as Mr. Kelly pointed out, the senior administration represented council at those community engagement meetings.
Correct.
Okay, so all members of council met with the community.
No.
Okay. Did any members of council meet with the developers?
Are you asking each one of us?
Well, I don't know, I'm just asking.
Well, you're asking a question.
Understand the process.
Well, do you want to go around to each one of them and ask them?
No, did any members of council meet with the developers?
Why would, Your Worship, why would we? When we asked Mr. Kelly and gang to go out and do the work for
Can I
us.
get an answer to my question?
Just answer.
June 17th, 2018, correct? Council gave the authority to the
Voted
administration,
on this, yes.
right? And you went out on behalf of council. That was in June 17th, 2000. And then the second meeting, no. This is, the new council now took office in December 6, 2018. So the second meeting, Mr. Kelly, took place when?
There was one on October 16th, 2018, Your Worship.
October?
16th, 2018.
Okay, and was that on the approval from council?
It was a continuation. We did commit to the community that once we had their feedback and once we further reviewed their concerns, to go back to the Mercer, which we did, and we did scale back, or we did come up with a scaled back version. And on April 28th, we did disclose what we were bringing to council, Your Worship.
So both times, and then the last time was just back in May, right?
In April 28th, Your Worship.
Okay, April 20, of this year.
Correct.
So it was a continuation from the original order of June of 2018,
It was
correct?
a continuation of the process, Your Worship.
Okay, Councilor Twill, second question.
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, I'm just trying to understand the process. Okay. So no members of city council met with the Lewis brothers?
Nope.
No members of city council?
No.
Oh, I did.
They come
I
in
did.
They
Why wouldn't I?
When?
as part of planning.
I didn't meet with anybody else.
Before?
Oh, you did meet?
Yeah, I did, and Council Bernard was there also.
The area council.
Yeah, and the area council.
Yeah, I was there
You
as
were
well.
there.
I didn't know what you were
So what's the
talking
big deal?
What?
We're just getting information.
You're just getting information.
Yeah, what's,
I'm just looking for information.
Oh, and why?
Why not?
how'd you read the minutes?
Let's go, come on.
Why not?
Read it, please.
about.
Can you put the resolution on the floor? Did you read it already? It's on the
You
floor.
have to, Your Worship.
I have it on the, here. Please ask your question, Councilman Kate.
Oh, sorry, I just, oh, God. The water and the greenhouse issue things, was that able to be resolved? for
So
those?
from what we are able, we said we'd had further discussion that as for the greenhouse portion, they should be able to continue using their drilled well, and that will come out further through the process.
Because if we're looking, yeah, and also with the one property owner, Mr. Kelly, that is, you know, concerned for wanting to maintain agriculture, we do have some,
Mr. Fobbs,
I think that was his name, yes,
he was the one that was opposed. He believes that it needs to sprawl for the city. He believes that the land should be retained for farmlands.
And is he able to maintain as a non-conforming use of agricultural property?
Again, that will go through the process of, as I understand, he's in Ontario. His land is currently rented out, but it is a hobby farm he hopes to do, and I presume that will come out through whatever processes we have to go through.
So, okay, so that would be something that we'd be able to consider for him.
Again, that will unfold through the process. I could not commit to that, because again, it has to go through a process, and council will ultimately decide what those lands will be used for.
Yeah. And the next step is to send this off to IRAC. That's what the resolution
We
says.
would have an application go to IRAC, Bishop, that's correct.
So
Councilor
I
Kate,
just wanted,
go ahead.
because it would be people that we'd be encroaching on their area for sure to come into. And I'm just making sure that, so say this happens and, you know, it gets zoned, I don't know, mixed use corridor, commercial, whatever we fancy there.
So right now, the two of the main landholders are hoping to put in a commercial center.
Okay.
But again, that's, let's go through process, and we could not commit, but it would go through, first of all, IRAC. What happens there, we have to go through the planning process as well.
Okay. But we still would be able to consider it, Mr. Phillips.
It'd be an open process, and I'm sure they'll bring their points to IRAC as well.
Councillor Ron.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering for clarification, there was an email included, and I couldn't figure it out. Is it from the province? Is the province on the side of this, or is it a...
We have not spoken to the province, although there was, the MLA or the minister was, for the area was there, but he did not speak for or against. We need to go through IRAC, and IRAC is one that will determine what goes ahead or not.
Yeah. Like, one of the emails that we received said something about justice, you know, and it said Justice PEI, CA or something. I was assuming it was from the province. Is this person that against it, or is it going to bring legal action?
What, Mr. Hodgman?
No, there was, I know when you look, I saw that too.
So the province, which
It's a
Boyce
landowner.
Thompson is also
Landowner.
Minister of Justice.
Senior legal counsel with the Department of Justice.
So
That's
that's
it.
the gentleman who owns the piece of property. He lives in Ottawa, but he rents out his property now down here.
Okay. So what...
So he has some concerns about sprawl, that it should be used for farmland, and he's not in favor of this going forward.
But it's, okay, so like the way you read it, it comes from the senior management of the
That's
commission.
his title, that he works for the Department of Justice
Yeah,
Okay.
in Ottawa.
in Ottawa.
Oh, okay.
Correct?
Thank
Okay. Councillor Yankoff.
Thank you, Worship.
Thank you.
Just to build on what Councilor McCabe said, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think she is looking for this to be reflected in the minutes, that if years down the road, or a year or 6 months, we want some reflection that this non-conforming use at this time, we can come back and say, well, we did not make a decision, that it will come back to council, so that this landowner who is not in favor of this can still have their day at City Hall. Is that correct?
So they'll have two kicks at the can. One, he can appear before IRAC or make comments known to IRAC as well. If IRAC finds in the favor of the city, it will then move forward to the planning process, and at that time he can bring forth his concerns as well. Ultimately, council will make the final determination. But it is an ongoing process. There is no fixed outcomes as we speak.
This is just, first part of the process is IRAC, and then if it goes ahead, green light, comes to city council. Doesn't get green light, it's done. Correct, Mr. Kelly?
And the province may have to be involved also, Your Worship, because there are some lands that are under a different provincial zoning designation.
Yeah.
So this is just that first process?
This is the first
So it's
process.
not like we're saying, boom, we're...
It's done.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Can I ask Karen, is that all right, Karen? Is that what we're? Yeah. Question called? Questions called? Did you want to?
I'll let him read it first, I guess.
We read it.
He's sleeping now. Thank you. I guess your worship, for me, and I'm assuming for Councilor McCabe, I mean, first of all, it's a friendly annexation. They came to us. My understanding is 7 of the 8 of the landowners are in agreement for coming to the city. Looking at the, as everybody knows, the growth in East Road is exploding. Perfect place for a commercial node. You're in that area where the commercial is in East Road. Also a good area for a recreation hub. I mean, apparently Sherwood Soccer, my understanding is they need 2 more fields. Baseball, Sherwood Ball is looking for 2 more ball fields. We don't have any cricket fields, we don't have any pickleball. There's a lot of opportunities here. I think this is a benefit for Charlottetown. I believe, my understanding is 130 acres. Is that what we're talking about?
It's about 100.
130 odd acres.
Okay. Anyway, so
13 acres.
do I think it'll be good for Charlottetown and for East Road in the long run? Definitely. Will I be supporting this going to Iraq? Definitely. Thank you.
Questions called?
Questions called, sir?
Councilor Ramsey, questions called. All those in favor, please put up your hand. Okay. Councilor Bernard, yes?
Yes.
Councilor McKay, yes? Councilor Duffy?
Yes.
Yes? Councilor Ramsey?
Yes.
Yes? Councilor Yankoff?
Yes.
Councilor McLeod? Yes. All those against? Deputy Mayor Cody, Councilor Duran, Councilor Twill. Just 1 second. Oh. There, sir. That's the report, Councilor Ramsey.
Yes, it was.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finance, audit, and tender.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our committee met twice since our last meeting here at council. Reports in your package. There's no resolutions tonight, Your Worship, for council to look at, but if there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
We're the second quarter reports for the first quarter. Can you get them? Yeah. I just want to. Anything else? Good. Question? Go ahead.
Your Worship, if I may. Councilor Cody, we used to get the updated financial reports, I think bi-monthly. Is that something now, or is it still?
That's what I just asked you.
I thought it was-
It's the quarter. He's going on quarter now. The first quarter ended June 30th. It should have been here.
This year, so I wasn't there.
Yeah, so we're gonna find out. Yeah.
Okay.
At one point in time, it was monthly, but now we're down to quarters. Okay. Human Resources, Communication Administration, Councilor Name. Bethany's here too. Hi, Bethany.
The Human Resources Communications and Administration Committee met on July 6th. The minutes are included in the package. We have 2 resolutions for your consideration, and I might add one, which will be very exciting because it's going to take care of this mess and the way we communicate in these meetings so that the public can actually communicate better if they choose to come online. These things are also going to be fixed up, so that's one of the resolutions, so I just wanted to point that out, that exciting times are coming. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer. Thank you. That's not what it is?
No, the video conferences for Parkdale, Sherwood, West Royalty.
But that's here
This is
too.
going to be the next stage.
That will be phase 2, this is phase 1.
That's only.
But you
All that speech for nothing.
No. At least
had to say
Parkdale, West Royalty,
Okay, but it's-
and maybe some other hidden rooms
Well,
around
that's still
here.
gonna help in those other rooms.
It will.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Big 72-inch screen.
All that energy for nothing.
Councilor Twill, you have a question for the Chair of Human Resources?
Thank you for your report. I'm looking for an update as to where we're at with the hiring of the chief of police. It's been a number of months now. I'm not sure who's on the selections committee, whether or not the process has been shortlisted, where are we at, and will that recommendation become the city council?
I think I'll defer.
You wanna
I
yield it?
do know the answer, but I'm not sure how much is.
You can answer. Go ahead.
Well, I do know that the process is in the process, I think you've shortlisted down to 2.
Yes, so your worship, we've finished the formal interview stage.
Yes.
And we've moved on to the second phase of the competition, and we'll be in touch with the candidates shortly to move forward in that phase.
Follow up there, Councilor Twill?
So is it shortlisted 2 or 5, and will that recommendation become the city council?
We don't.
We don't.
Just 1 second, no, just, the CAO is just consulted with the legal counsel. So legal counsel does it come to
So as per the MJ worship, again, we go through the process. Once we get to the selection, we of course advise council, but as I understand it, it is done through our interview process. Once we choose, that will be the candidate that will serve the people and council.
Go ahead again, Councilor. Just stand up and ask a question. Yell into the mic there so all the audience can hear you.
Is it down to 2 or 5?
Your worship, we're in,
Yeah, I think, you know what, can you just tell, are we down to 2, 3, 4?
we have 2 remaining candidates in the process.
Thank you. 2. Yeah. Okay, so we got a couple of resolutions.
Yes, Your Worship, moved by Councillor Yankoff, seconded by Councillor Cody, Deputy Mayor Cody, that the City of Charlottetown accepts the request for proposal meeting room video conferencing from Bachman Vidcom Limited for the installation of video conferencing equipment in the Sherwood, Parkdale, and West Royalty meeting rooms at a cost of $20,680.06 plus applicable taxes.
Questions,
Yeah, something to say, Councilor Yankoff.
Before we move on, can we get a clarification of when this second stage is coming? Because we talked about it at committee, and I apologize. for
No,
being
you don't.
excited out there.
It's coming.
So right now it is, they're finalizing the RFP, which will go out, and the intention is to come back within the next council meeting to have, hopefully, if all goes well, to have the RFP back for that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kelly, I think you had anticipated that the council chambers, if all went well, would be up and running for October.
That's the time frame we're working with
Okay.
council.
With mics, your own mic, huh?
There will be a change to the
Your
whole.
own mic and your own monitor.
Oh, your reclining seats?
Questions been called there, Councilor Ramsey?
It has been,
Oh.
your worship.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Okay, sir, shall I go to the next one?
Moved by Councilor Yankoff, seconded by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the City of Charlottetown accept the amendments to the flexible hours of work policy as per the attached documents effective July 12th, 2021.
Okay. Question call?
Questions called.
Question called by the chair, Councilor Yankoff. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 10-0. Bethany, as always, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Advisory, that's Councilor Yankoff again, and it's yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Council Advisory Committee met on June 25th. The open draft minutes are included in the package. There are no resolutions for your consideration, and if anyone has any questions, I will do my best to answer. Thank you.
Councilor
Thank
Ramsey.
you for your report, Councilor Yankoff. I just, a couple of months ago, I thought, just going through my report, as I said, the Affordable Housing Committee did not meet and all that. I thought that was pushed to planning.
It is.
So how come I'm still saying there's no reports?
Again, we're in transition, and that will appear on,
Yeah.
under them, council.
So that is under planning.
Under
now,
planning,
because
yeah.
Of the contracts with our manager and everything like that.
And the terms of a reference have been changed.
So in the future, we will not be doing a report.
No.
No, you won't have to get up and say they didn't meet again. You don't want to do that. No.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councilor McKay, did you have a question?
No, I'll wait.
Okay. All good? Councilor
Councilor
Wheel?
Thank you for your report. As you know, for the past 7 or 8 months, I've been requesting to restructure the committees, including myself, especially. Just wondering where your committee is with that, and will you be entertaining some proposed changes now that we have a new chair plan?
Do it?
Interim.
No, we
No.
don't. No, I was reporting for only tonight.
Okay,
I'm
well,
not-
anyway,
I'm not the chair.
I just, as you know, I've made requests over the last 7 meetings consistently, so just want to reiterate that one more time.
Yeah.
Sure.
It-
I think I will defer this to Mr. Kelly. I know we've brought this to committee many times. At this stage, there have been no additional changes, but I think, Mr. Kelly,
But just before he answers, just on the planning, as we know, it may become a committee of council.
Yeah.
So I spoke to Mr. Hooley today, There's legislative changes that are required, so this is not going to be done as quickly as we hope because we have to change the procedural bylaw. We have to find out how do we accommodate 10 councillors and the mayor and the resident members. So we have to find another venue. So there's a lot that has to be done before we get it done. And I think, Karen, you're working with Mr. Juliano? Yeah. So you're looking at best practices everywhere. Did you want to answer that, Mr. Kelly, the other question?
A sewage update, that issue did come up at the committee a couple times. At this time, the committee has held that the current appointments will hold for the duration of this term, as I understand, Your Worship.
Except for the chair of planning.
Planning.
Correct. And that's under review in terms of how that will be, as the Mayor said, to be restructured, that all of council may serve on that committee.
Because it intersects with the Planning Act, which is a provincial act.
Right.
So there's a lot that's going on. You want to move for adjournment?
No, just a question, so is Councillor Yankoff, or who's going to be the interim chair of planning while this process?
We're working that out.
Well, that's usually the vice chair. Usually, that's what you're vice chair for. You mean intern.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, I'm just wondering, 'cause if the process is gonna take longer than what maybe we anticipated or thought, then I guess my question is over the next 3 or 4 months, whatever it may take, that planning still has to operate, but how's it gonna operate?
Yeah. So, Councillor Rivard, Mr. Hooley plans to have something back in the next few days on how we can go forward with the Committee of Council. So hopefully we can have something ready to kick into action for our August meeting.
I thought you just said, Your Worship, that it was, we have legislative changes that we made and then.
No, legislative changes means we have to change our procedural bylaw.
Yeah.
So that has to require an amendment from the Council Advisory Committee. Then we have to look at where we have to go to a venue. Where we cover planning, heritage, design review, and the Standing Committee of Planning and Development. It's going to be a lot of work. Motion to adjourn? Moved. All those in favor? Thank you. So we have to stay on.